night before the invasion, Normandy slept under a silver moon. The ocean was calm, almost peaceful, a cruel disguise for what was coming. Along the cliffs near Point du Hoc, Erich Weber, a 20-year-old German radio operator, sat inside a concrete bunker, tuning his receiver. He could hear faint signals in the static British transmissions, Allied chatter, something big on the move. His commander dismissed it as false alarms. Erich wasn't so sure. The air itself felt heavier that night, as if the wind carried secrets. He looked at a small photograph pinned beside his desk, his younger sister Liesel, smiling in a field of sunflowers. He had promised her he would come home after the war. She believed him. He wasn't sure he did. Outside, the sea stretched into black infinity. The smell of salt and oil mixed with the distant hum of engines, not ships, not yet but soon. He lit a cigarette, though he hated the taste. Smoke drifted through the bunker as he whispered to himself, "Maybe tomorrow will pass quietly." At 3:17 a.m. his radio crackled violently. Distorted voices, coded signals, overlapping static, and then, unmistakably, the sound of thunder that wasn't thunder. The invasion had begun. By dawn, the horizon burned. Hundreds of ships appeared like dark ghosts rising from the mist, battleships, transports, landing craft. Erich stared through his binoculars, his heart pounding. It was as if the entire ocean had turned into an army. The order came quickly: stand your ground, no retreat. His commander barked orders over the chaos, but no one could hear him over the sound of artillery. Shells screamed overhead, shaking the earth. Erich grabbed his headset and relayed coordinates, his voice trembling. The bunker vibrated with every explosion. Dust rained from the ceiling. The smell of cordite and burning steel filled the air. Outside, soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting in panic. The first Allied landing craft hit the beaches, men pouring out, bullets slicing through water and flesh. Erich could barely breathe. He ducked behind his station as a shell struck nearby. The shockwave threw him across the room, shattering his radio. When he stood, dazed and bleeding, he saw the roof had caved in. His commander lay motionless beneath debris. For the first time, Erich realized they were not defending Germany anymore. They were trapped in a grave of their own making. He stumbled toward the exit, clutching his sister's photo, as flames swallowed the bunker behind him. Erich crawled out into chaos. The cliffs above Normandy were crumbling under constant fire. Smoke blanketed the beach below, a sea of dying men, both German and Allied. He stumbled through the trenches, deafened, his ears ringing. He needed to find another radio post to call for reinforcements, but the lines were gone, the network destroyed. Then he saw him, an American soldier, barely older than himself, lying half buried in sand, clutching his stomach. Blood stained the tide around him. For a long moment, Erich froze, the enemy, the man who came to kill him. But as the soldier groaned, whispering, "Help me," something inside Erich broke. He dropped his rifle and tore his own uniform sleeve to bandage the wound. "Don't move," he said in broken English. The American looked at him, confused but grateful. "Why?" he asked weakly. Erich didn't answer. Maybe because he remembered his sister. Maybe because in that moment he no longer saw sides, only suffering. They hid behind a rock as planes roared overhead. Two boys from two worlds, trapped between nations. As daylight dimmed, Erich dragged the wounded American into an abandoned radio station further inland. The roof was gone, and rain began to fall through holes in the ceiling. He searched through broken wires and burnt panels, trying to repair the transmitter. His hands shook, part fear, part exhaustion. "I can send a signal," he muttered. "Maybe get help for both of us." The American smiled faintly. "You're crazy," he whispered. "You'd risk it." Erich looked up, his voice quiet. "No one wins if we both die." He worked for hours, splicing wires, connecting fragments. Finally, the radio flickered. Static returned. He pressed the transmitter button. "This is Erich Weber, German Army, coordinates 237 North. There are wounded. Repeat, wounded. Need medical." The message cut off. Allied shells struck nearby, collapsing half the roof. Erich shielded the American with his body as debris rained down. When the dust settled, his uniform was torn, his back bleeding, but the American still breathed. Outside, the sound of approaching troops, Allied soldiers. Rescue or death, he didn't know which. He looked down at the photo in his hand, Liesel's smile now covered in blood and dust. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Days later, Allied medics found 2 men in the rubble, one dead, one barely alive. The survivor, an American, carried a letter clutched tightly in his hand. It was written in broken English, signed by Erich Weber. "If you live, tell my sister I did not die in hate. Tell her I saw the world once more, not through orders but through mercy. Maybe that is how I'll find peace." The American survived and kept his promise. Months later, when the war ended, a letter arrived in a small town in Bavaria. A girl named Liesel opened it with trembling hands. Inside was her brother's final message, and a photograph, faded, torn, but still showing his smile. She read it under a sky clear of sirens, her tears falling on words that ended with, "No war can kill kindness." The world moved on, but that letter, the last letter from Normandy, became her prayer.